Hello, welcome back for another section of Swim, Why We Love the Water by Lynn Scher. Thanks for joining me today. If you're just joining us for the first time, I'm Julie. I read books over here. We're about halfway through this one, maybe even a little more than halfway actually. And we're starting on page 112. So if you're looking to start earlier in the book, you can go back sections. We tend to get through about 20 to 25 pages per section, if that helps. And yeah, we're gonna get through as much as we can with this section, starting on the bottom of page 112 with the very last paragraph there. So let's go. On the other hand, swimming pools are a round trip to nowhere, over and over again. The narrator of a novel about a racer says, "Swimming back through your own wake, you always feared that you'd crash into yourself coming the other way." They should have built pools that expanded or contracted to the required length, or huge circular ones in which you'd spiral round until you reached the center. "I don't like pools," Swim Trek's Simon Murray admits. "In an indoor pool, every day is the same. It's like McDonald's, the same meal wherever you are. But go to a local cafe and every meal will be different. That's the beauty of open water swimming. Each day is different." Annette Kellerman was more blunt. "Swimming under a roof to me is like big game hunting in a zoo. All legitimate fascination goes." Open water swimming is not for the faint of heart or the easily chilled. One of the founders of the wild swimming movement in Britain, where hardy souls seek the least hospitable swimming holes, advises, "You must get in with purpose. Don't just stand there dipping your toe and wondering if it's warm enough, because if you are in Britain, chances are it won't be." Here's a picture, autographed postcard of Italy, slathered against the elements as she enters the channel. Note her signature, "Swimmingly yours, Trudy Ederle." Cute. All right, top of 114, actually. Well, the text is on the bottom, and then we've got pictures. "Especially if you're dipping that toe into the English Channel." The water measured a nippy 61 degrees when Gertrude Ederle struck out in 1926, and that was just the temperature at the surface in August when the icy waters heated up. It is so volatile you can see the swirling currents, so unpredictable you can start in a lake and soon be battered by crushing swells, so demonic the turn of the tide can keep you from your goal, as Ederle discovered just offshore of Kent. "I felt as if the sea were pulling me right away from England," she said later. We've got some pictures. Captain Webb's achievement. Struck a chord he lived on as a popular Matchbox brand. Captain Webb matches. All right, top of 115. So what's the draw? Why do people still grease themselves up, gather a GPS-directed crew, dodge oil tankers, and agree to be fed from cups dangled at the end of a stick? No touching the boat, or a human, or you're disqualified. Why has the goal line moved from just crossing the perilous sleeve, as the French call it, to crossing it 3 times in a row, for which the record is now 28 hours, 21 minutes, with just 8 hours longer than it took Matthew Webb to make it one way? The answer is not, as mountaineer George Mallory said of climbing Mount Everest, because it's there. You don't swim the channel because it's there. You swim it because you are, writes Kathy Watson in her book about the first crossing. Channel swimming is about oneself, and crossing the channel is never less than a rite of passage in the swimmer's life. A California physicist who swam it in 1988 elaborated, "The sea is not susceptible to human vanity," observed David Clark. "When I got out of the ocean, stood on the shoreline in France, and looked back across the channel, it did not look defeated to me. What we conquer are our own limitations. That's also why Diana Nyad chose the treacherous course from Havana to Key West, 103 miles of open water that could take 60 hours to cross. I wasn't searching for some grand accomplishment to do, she said. I was just thinking how to live my everyday life so I don't have any regrets at the end. At 61, she was swimming for anyone who has ever agonized that growing older means saying goodbye to dreams. Months before the event, I met her in Manhattan to find out about her mindset and her training. At 8 a.m., she's already done 2.5 hours of 50-yard laps at a steady 60 strokes per minute. That's both arms every second, non-stop. Watching her swim is unnerving. When we go across the street for breakfast, she is ravenous. Oatmeal, yogurt, berries, bananas, eggs, bacon. Watching her eat is encouraging. I don't feel old, she tells me. Yeah, I'm a bit slower than I was earlier, but I'm pretty darn strong. Used to be like a racehorse, now I'm more like a Clydesdale. One with more than a little horse sense about the mystical qualities of long-distance swimming. People save up their whole lives to go to Nepal to sit in an ashram, she says. They just want to go where I'm going, to get out of their daily lives and explore the universe of their mind. In the summer of 2011, she made her 4th attempt at what became a much publicized swim. Partway across, 2 deadly jellyfish, the Portuguese man-of-war, whipped their long, stingy tentacles, injecting lethal toxins into her body. It was as if a science fiction whisk flew across my body in less than 1/1000th of a second, Nyad later wrote. The pain is excruciating, intolerable, as if you have been held down in boiling oil. I yelled out, "Fire! Fire! I'm on fire!" As the paralysis from the venom spread, she had trouble breathing. Her life was in danger. She finally agreed to quit, her dream crushed. We planned for one scenario, one relationship, and a very different animal presents itself, she concluded, after her body healed. And we survive. That calm acceptance of the inevitable unites many of the open water swimmers I meet, a lesson that goes beyond any body of water. You don't conquer Mother Nature, explains my pool pal Alan Morrison, a robust lawyer with enviable shoulder muscles who long-distance swims include the Santa Barbara Channel, Boston Harbor, and Tampa Bay. I don't swim marathons to win. It's to have a long visit and hope that Mother Nature lets me through. Sometimes she doesn't. My first long swim was around Key West in 2006, he recalls. A squall came up and the lightning started. That crackly kind of lightning. Then the safety boat came by and the guy said, "We strongly urge you to get in the boat." I was on board before he finished the sentence. Alan is an attorney specializing in biotechnology and pharmaceutical law, which may help explain his affinity for water. Swimming is a fabulous sport for anything quantitative, he explains over breakfast one morning after a workout, because you're always counting. In the pool, it's always a math exercise. It's pattern recognition, formation. During the marathon, it's just plain grit. There are parts that are pure hell, he answers. When I ask about the 14th hour, 24-mile Tampa Bay swim he has just completed, in the middle, you're reevaluating everything. You consider canceling the other 2 you've already signed up for. You start getting melancholy. You really start wishing you had died as a child. I'm not sure he's joking. Then, he recalls, I thought, if I represented myself as an attorney, what would it take to quit? What excuse would be compelling enough? Then, how would I feel when I woke up the next morning? That stopped me. I just kept telling myself, it's kind of like your bar mitzvah. You can't quit. Half the planet's watching on the internet. Which is where he's met many of them. He took up swimming as an adult, he says, and it's changed my life. Of all the people I know on Facebook, almost all wear swim caps. That's another common refrain among swimmers today. The loneliness of the long-distance swimmer has been supplanted by the digital and daily support of colleagues as group swims and more social open water challenges have become more available. You still can't chat when your head is underwater, and it's unlikely that the boss will organize a foursome for a swim outing, but like the transformation of the backyard pool to an outdoor living room, swimming is emphasizing the communal as much as the competitive. There are open water events from South Africa to Sweden. In the United States, from Chesapeake Bay to Alcatraz Island, open water became an Olympic event in 2008 in Beijing. In 2012, it will be a 10-kilometer, 6-mile race in London's Serpentine, a lake in the middle of Hyde Park with a storied racing past, including Christmas Day plunges into its iced-over waters, often requiring a hatchet. I've got a large picture. The race is called Escape from Alcatraz. The water is cold. So swimming from Alcatraz back to the San Francisco Bay, I assume. In New York, more than 2,100 swimmers participated in 14 major events run by NYC Swim last summer, from a car-free crossing under the Brooklyn Bridge to the circumlocution of the Statue of Liberty to the killer 17.5-mile marathon called the Ederly Swim, after Gertrude, who first freestyled from Lower Manhattan to Sandy Hook, New Jersey, in 1925. The signature swim is the 28.5-mile trip around Manhattan Island, inspired by Diana Nyad's record-breaking excursion in 1975. I breathed to the left, and swimming counterclockwise, I saw New York all day, she tells me long after the fact. And people took off work or came down for a few hours and cheered me on. I looked down the expanse of the Hudson and went under the George Washington Bridge and could see the Statue of Liberty all the way down. It was magnificent. That special view of the world's most special city was also described by Dave Tanner, now coaching high school swimmers in Indiana. I swam along the East River, he tells me. I saw the United Nations. I passed taxis. I was going faster than they were. Then I headed down the Hudson. It took 7.5 hours. My shoulders were so sore. I couldn't shift the gears driving home. My friend shifted from the passenger seat. Morty Berger, a banker and swimmer, started NYC Swim to revive an activity that once permeated the Big Apple. This is a second dance for the sport, he tells me, citing the glory years when match races and endurance swims by Ederly and a pack of predecessors made regular runs in the city's waterways. He says the momentum has been building, thanks to the quadrennial buzz about the Olympics, the aging of a population that cannot do marathons and triathlons forever, and the more than admirable cleanup of the city's waters. It's a perfect storm now, because there's a little edge of danger as well, Berger says. You know, darker water, Jaws is gonna get you. He's only partly kidding. There's a kind of magic when you're out there in your zone, Berger goes on. It allows you to have your own private thrill, which is as poetic as he gets. I ask what makes swimming special. Some say it's the womb, but I don't remember that, and don't wish to revisit it even with a psychiatrist. All right, we've got some pictures from Brooklyn to Manhattan without the bridge, NYC Swim 2010, and then Encircling Lady Liberty with NYC Swim 2010. So we've got the bridge and Miss Liberty. Last paragraph on 121. Berger's biggest booster and volunteer public ambassador doesn't need any outside help. Swimming is my drug, my therapy, my church, says Capri Smoro, 60, a bubbly, self-described mermaid whose enthusiasm has ushered many into New York's waters. Almost any weekend year-round, you can find her at the beach in a black Speedo with a snappy camera tucked into the bodice. My cleavage cam, she explains, sneaking in a quick shot that will later be posted online. Capri works in advertising, coordinating outdoor national campaigns for major corporations, but her heart remains in the water. I wish I could swim all the time, she says to me one evening over dinner. I always complain at the office. I'm missing a really great beach day, and if you really appreciate me, I want a waterproof laptop that I could take to the beach. A former triathlete with the musculature to match, she has completed almost every event sponsored by NYC Swim and gets depressed if she goes more than a week out of the water. It's very calming, she tells me. As soon as I get into the water, all the mental garbage, all the internal chatter, moving her fingers around her head like a tightly wound spring, all that stuff goes away, especially with long-distance swims. I check my form. Then I go wandering around the universe. Middle of page 123. The camaraderie among swimmers, particularly in open water, is contagious. My Hellespont swim was preceded by a round of parties and meetings that produced instant friendships and mutual support. And that's just one of the events organized by Swim Trek, which bills itself as the world's leading swimming holiday operator. There are at least half a dozen others I found around the world. In 2003, when it began, they took just under 100 swimmers to 3 spots. In 2011, they took more than 2,000 people to 26 locations, including Greece, Croatia, and Egypt. That partly reflects more awareness of the great outdoors, says founder Simon Murray. 30 years ago, inland waterways and lakes were considered trash areas where you put your pollution. Now they're cleaner than they've ever been, and people realize that there's more to do than swim in a pool. Right, we've got a little aside story on 122, Close Encounters of the Aquatic Kind. 5 hours into his marathon swim across Tampa Bay, Alan Morrison felt fish nibbling at his thighs. Actually, they were pressing their bodies against me and vibrating, he recalls. I don't know if they were trying to mate with me and this was foreplay. They continued to vibrate as they moved down his legs. After 5 or 10 seconds, they'd go away, then return after 5 or 10 minutes. There were at least 10 encounters. The first time, he stopped abruptly and told the woman kayaking alongside, "Something is crawling down my leg." She smiled. I asked if I had anything to worry about. She said no, so I swam on. As a child, Capri Giaciamoro often swam alone in the Caribbean waters off Mexico. Calmly and soberly, she tells me, "Once I ran into this 5-foot barracuda. We both scared the shit out of each other. I know that he freaked out because his colors changed from cool silver to blotchy gray. So mentally I was thinking and talking to the barracuda, and I said, 'Listen, I understand this is your territory, but I'm just passing through. I mean you no harm.' So then he calmed down and he said, 'Okay, but you scared me.' I said, 'You scared me. But just let me pass, 'cause I'm passing through.' And that was that." I asked if the dialogue was all in her head. "Well, I think we were communicating," she replies. And then she starts to tell me about the time she was scuba diving and heard a noise like a rattlesnake, then saw lobster claws on a ledge, and lobsters are very curious. So I waved and he felt the wave and came out and calmed down. "Fish are just like people," she explains. "They have personalities." See, here you must sit. Top of page 124. No one has explored the human potential of the oceans better than Lynn Cox, the gifted swimmer and eloquent writer who has helped change the face of swimming in the wild. Her generosity to other swimmers is legendary. Her passion for the Earth's waters unbounded. I'll open up an atlas and see all the blue places, she explains, but each is different in color, taste, buoyancy. Each is a world in itself. With 2 record English Channel crossings, the first before she was old enough to drive, and a string of other global successes, she has reclaimed the oceans as avenues for swimmers. You are lifted by the waves, she tells me. Everything is always changing, even the light on the water, the different kinds of froth, and at night the phosphorus sparks fly. What she really appreciates is knowing you're part of something else. Lynn is best known for her ice water swims, bone-piercing immersions, which she partly attributes to the wetsuit she's grown on her body. If I were a tall, lean guy, I wouldn't get far in the water, she says matter-of-factly. No body fat. Her internal temperature is 1 degree cooler than average, and yes, that makes a difference. The lower baseline means she doesn't have to work as hard to keep it warm. She can also voluntarily close down her peripheral blood flow, so it migrates to my core. She sweats in a 76-degree pool, but in the unimaginably frigid waters where she's swum, the Bering Sea, the Antarctic, Alaska's Glacier Bay, she does indeed feel the cold. She just doesn't focus on it. You don't want to give energy to it, she says. Another life lesson from the blue. Great advice, but not the sort of thing I'd try at home. I've always liked my water, well, warm. Not hot. Okay, cool, but not cold. That is to say, I am happiest where there is no shock to the system, which means little discernible difference between the warmth of the air and that of the liquid I'm entering. Except for certain killer scorching days, I like to slide into a friendly womb-like world. It is safe, it is comforting. I am, however, getting more flexible as a result of my Hellespont training. I've discovered that colder, translation very slightly cooler, water is better for faster swims and longer workouts. A quick chill can be energizing, but I know my limits. One brisk Sunday morning in February, I head out to see the Coney Island polar bears, not a group of Arctic animals, but a collection of sturdy souls who choose to take a dip when the temperature takes a dive. Polar bear clubs exist all over the country, many daring only on New Year's Day to bathe in frigid water, usually raise money for charity. The Coney Island Polar Bear Club calls itself the oldest in the United States, and they swim in the Atlantic Ocean every single Sunday, from November through April. We've got a picture, winter bathing caps for Coney Island polar bears, which look a bit like a bonnet, or like a beanie. After clomping through a field of snow to get to the bleak, wintry beach, I find a dozen or so bears, including retirees, freelancers, a postal worker, and a pastry chef, casually milling about in the 46-degree sunshine. It is just afternoon, and I am wearing jeans, a turtleneck, a parka, boots, gloves, and a scarf tied snugly around my neck. They are all dressed, or rather undressed, in bikinis or boxers over both beer bellies and trim bodies. No one is shivering. You can't be more democratic than in a bathing suit, says one member, laughing. Every day is a beach day, explains another, a tall, thin fellow who came on doctor's orders 21 years ago to get some exercise in winter. The first time it felt like pins and needles, but then it clicked. Louis Padilla, 69, used to operate an elevator in Manhattan's Garment Center. He also used to need crutches because my knees were gone. I couldn't walk straight. After 27 years of swimming here, it all disappeared. No pain. I love it. It's cold, but I don't feel it so much. The health thing comes up a lot with the polar bears because their founder, back in 1903, advocated physical fitness long before it was popular. Cold water was part of the mix and remains the lure. It's crazy and fun and cheaper than therapy, adds Bob Croce, 51, who did his first cold water dunk on a dare. It's about those endorphins. I ask how he warms up after the swim. At the end, I just run to the car, he says, laughing. 2 pictures. That's snow, not sand, that they're running back through. And then, yes, those are snowflakes, big ones. I'm not sure you'll be able to see, but you can see that. That's not sand, it's snow. And if you can see the little flecks of white, those are snowflakes. Bottom of page 127. Just after 1 p.m., Club President Dennis Thomas, 55, leads the bears through the snow and down the beach. I join the march with a bald sushi chef who remembers the time he swam in Lake George. When I had hair, and when I came up from the water, all my hair was frozen. With Mike Spataro, a strapping ex-Marine who drives here weekly from his home in New Jersey. It takes me 1 hour and 2 bridges, he says proudly, and it's expensive too. Mike starts to laugh as he recalls the day they swam through a blinding blizzard, a moment captured in a hilarious video that I later see online, and another day when the wind chill factor brought the temperature down to about 10 degrees. The sand was like razors. We backed into the water. Today, he's barefoot. Then Dennis Thomas launches into the weekly ritual. The swimmers form a big circle where he leads them in a chant. Today it's about the Super Bowl, accompanied by blood-warming jumping jacks. That sends them into the water, just above freezing, where they bravely form another circle, hooting loudly, then swim off at will. One woman in a green cap takes off as if it's summer. A slender young woman wearing a fake fur hat and tiger print bikini retreats to the beach almost immediately. The bright pink skin 2 inches above her studded navel, marking how far she stepped in. That's all I can take, says Adrian Adams, a private caterer, shivering. So why wear a bikini? A suit wouldn't have made a difference. As one of the regulars, she does it, I assume, from a deep, if loony, desire to embrace the chill. I am dead wrong. I hate winter, she tells me, her pink skin now turning blue. This is my surrender. This is just my way to deal with it. In all, they swim about 12 minutes. Capri Giaciamoro is here, casually shaking off the winter water. This just feels great. You should try it, she insists. Within 2 minutes, you release a chemical cocktail. Dopamine, serotonin, endorphins, that's the polar bear high. From my totally dry and warm spot on the beach, I ask how cold it felt. You know when you're at a party and you put your arm into the bucket of ice to get the last beer? That's how cold it is. On your whole body. It's a shock, but so in the moment. Nothing else exists. You are right there dealing with it. Right there. She is smiling. They all are. And it actually, am I crazy? Looks like fun. I am almost tempted to try it. Almost. As Dennis Thomas heads back through the snow barefoot, I ask whether he swims there in the summer as well. Nope, he says. Too crowded. I'm guessing a pool wouldn't suit him either. We've got another aside story on 129, Red Tide. The photo looked fake. One little head bobbing among 5,000 in a mass swimathon across China's Yangtze River in July 1966. But Mao Zedong was indeed there, a stroke of political theater to dispel rumors that the enigmatic chairman, 72, was ill and unfit to lead. A lifelong swimmer, do you swim? Water is a good thing. He showed up in Wuhan unannounced and executed his peculiar lounge chair style on his back, arms and legs adrift, to float some 9 miles downstream for more than an hour. The current was as favorable as the reception. He even paused to teach the backstroke to a young girl. The crowd, reported the state-run media, erupted into spasms of cheers. The outside world read the aquatic tea leaf as a sign that Chairman Mao was prepared to resume control of the tumultuous Cultural Revolution. Chinese citizens saw it as an invitation to follow the great leader through the changing tides of power. There was old Mao waving his hand, said one, recalling the picture of him wrapped in his bathrobe. He may as well have been standing on the water. Here's a picture. The poster reads in part, "Closely follow the great leader Chairman Mao and forge ahead courageously amid great storms and waves." This guy was apparently ill or whatever, but he swam in this river. Crazy. All right. Oh, that's the end of chapter 6. How exciting. We're going to go on to chapter 7 on page 131. 7. Streamlines. Like most swimmers from less buttoned-down eras, Leander crossed the Hellespont naked, knotting his cloak around his head before plunging in to visit his lover on the other side. When you're a myth, you can do anything. A few millennia later, Gertrude Ederle did it in real life, slipping out of her homemade silk bra while crossing the English Channel in search of comfort, not romance. Male swimmers were permitted to cross with nothing protecting their masculinity but a layer of grease. The images come to mind during my own adventure, because the water feels so soft and pearly, I wouldn't mind being naked myself. It's how I prefer to swim when I'm alone, sliding through the stream minus even the barest of barriers. So primal, so impractical. So I've thought carefully about what suit to bring from my very well-stocked collection. A strapless number that frees my shoulders and makes me feel like Esther Williams. A 2-piece halter top that might let me do an Ederle to get up close and personal with the Hellespont. A soft little bandeau with sequins, body bling, I like glitter, on the front. In the interest of propriety and pace, I've settled on a speed suit. Purple, so I'd know it was me. While the unforgiving second skin won't hide the kebabs I've consumed since arriving in Turkey, it won't slow me down or chafe me either. Better yet, I got it online, without ever having to go to a dressing room. Want to see a grown woman, any woman, act like the victim in horror film? 2 words. Bathing suit. 3 more. Trying one on. I think the day you go to buy a bathing suit is the day that even women who like to shop feel like committing suicide, says Nora Ephron, co-author of the play Loss, and What I Wore, which x-rays our feelings about clothing. Calling swimsuits clothing may be charitable. Underwear, proclaims Patricia Marks dryly in The New Yorker, but unlike underwear, they do not work behind the scenes. Bathing suits are the whole show. Worse yet, she writes, you know who looks fabulous in a bathing suit? A mannequin. Also, a hanger. Marks, who's trim enough not to worry, I do not like this tone or how she's talking about this. Anyway, Marks, who is trim enough not to worry, swam laps naked while a student at Harvard because she says, I was pre-sexual. I assumed everyone was there just to swim. No one was looking. Years later, she mentioned that to a male college friend who said incredulously, are you kidding? Why do you think I was a lifeguard? At least he was more appreciative than the unforgiving fluorescence of the fitting room. One glimpse at the 3-way mirror under the ghastly glare, and you recognize pores you haven't seen since senior prom, wrinkles you're paying Estee Lauder to hide. Speaking personally, my skin is fish belly white, and belly fat from 3 directions is at least 2 too many. Wait, that's back fat. Most women I know would rather expose themselves to the media and run for president than bare their bodies in Bloomingdale's. One who has done both understands the gravity of the problem. In an environmental speech to high-tech executives during her 2007 campaign, Hillary Rodham Clinton acknowledged that replacing incandescent light bulbs with more energy-efficient CFRs was stalled by the bulb's sickly shade of green. Every woman in this audience knows what it's like to try on a bathing suit in a dressing room with a fluorescent light, said the then senator, instantly earning the vote of fashion victims nationwide. There will not be broad-based market acceptance until we get better glow. For columnist Ellen Goodman, The solution is simple. Replace the fluorescents in the dressing rooms, not eco-friendly American homes, with candles, and mandate only one long skinny mirror, and we all live happily ever after in the land of size 2. Until then, there is spandex. Pull it out. It snaps back. Tug it over your bulges, it mashes them flat. Spandex is an anagram for expands, which it does, then recoils to make sure you don't. It does for swimmers what months of sit-ups have not. We were the first to use it, recalls Miriam Rousseau, who designed the ultraic suits for her family-run Goddix brand, which compacted the bodies of bathers from Elizabeth Taylor to Princess Di. The bigger amounts we used, the more it controlled, she says. And the prints were like a camouflage. We knew what to highlight and what to cover up. Today's spandex queen is Miracle Suit. If she has a little bit of tummy, it flattens it. A little bit of a rear, it lifts it. If her bodice area is a little bit lacking or overzealous, it compensates. Sandra Davidoff, Director of Corporate Relations for Miracle Suit, is telling me about the phenomenally successful line of stylish swimwear that promises to make women look 10 pounds lighter in 10 seconds. It's the best compression suit out there, she says, denying any comparison to sausage casing. Nothing pops out of any spot where it shouldn't be. It just sucks you in and keeps you in. Miracle Suit's secret is a triple dose of nylon lycra, brand name for spandex, for triple the holding power, Davidoff explains. A yard of fabric that's protecting our bodies against the world. I think about the heavy, boned girdles of another era, which condensed my mother the way Reader's Digest condensed books. Only the fibers have changed. Most women have body issues, Davidoff says. Nobody thinks she's good enough to strut her stuff. You want to be able to walk to the beach or the pool and feel confident that everything stays where it belongs, that nothing is jiggling. The market is confirmed by Miracle Suit's consumers. The largest size in the line, which used to be 18, is now 24W, a sign of the corpulent times in which we are living. Davidoff explains. Even Speedo, the least you can wear for fast, efficient swimming, has seen its most popular size grow from a 10 to a 14. But there's another side to it, explains Kate Wilton, Speedo's director of performance. People who aren't as fit still want to get into the water and exercise, and there are suits for them. Speedo, which helped lead the revolution from wool to nylon to lycra, now uses its own version of Extra Life Lycra to inspire aquatic confidence, Wilton says. We want swimmers of all levels to get into the water. We want to make swimming a sport for everyone. Its signature model is the shoulder-bearing Ultraback, an X-shaped backstrap that doesn't move around when you swim laps. You don't want your straps to slip off. Ultrabacks frame the bulging lats, propelling swimmers down pool lanes across America. What you see when they turn over is less inspiring. Call it the unibosom. Yes, it's just smushing everything down, Wilton agrees. We've found that it's easier to swim through the water if you're more compressed, almost like a sports bra with running. Not the most flattering thing to wear, but it helps you exercise more efficiently. Our suits are for performance. At Aqualab in England, Speedo's top secret research and development facility, scientists investigate how the anti-drag properties in everything from jet planes to Formula One cars can be applied to speed suits, using high-speed underwater video to observe how water moves over a swimmer's body. The current gold standard, worn by top racers, is a lightweight, woven, the others are knit, fabric that feels like paper and conforms to the body, if you can imagine, even more like a second skin than your basic Ultraback. Don't try it on. Wilton warns me about the wispy sample she lets me fondle. It would take you a really long time to get into it. They are so tight and so compressive. The first time someone puts one on usually takes up to 20 minutes. It's a lot of work. Surprisingly, even the superbly toned torsos on Olympians need some help. Wilton says tiny waists are a hindrance because when you dive in, water will get stuck in your waist and slow you down when you hit the hips. So we try to compress the body front to back to make a flat surface, filling in the waist so it's the same width as the hips. That way water flows over the body as quickly as possible. And up front, yes, it drastically reduces the size of the chest. We're trying to make as few bumps and grooves in the body as possible. But Speedo and other manufacturers had their own bumpy ride with aerodynamically accurate creations that may have rocketed athletes right to the wall. It's now called the suit era. The years from 2000 to 2009, when polyurethane body clingers that looked like high-tech versions of what my grandfather wore in winter helped swimmers smash some 200 records in more than record time. Fans loved the speed, the excitement of seeing hundreds of seconds shaved off by skin. Critics charged that the suits, for both men and women, were performance-enhancing, adding buoyancy and improving the flight to the finish line. In 2009, FINA, the sport's official organizing body, outlawed them, banning polyurethane from the pool and setting up new rules. Official competitive swimmers must now wear suits that are woven, knitted, or braided from fabric. That is, no more of those better living through chemistry costumes. We have entered the textile era. Yes, it's really called that. With rules that specify how much of the body can be covered, knees to waist for males, knees to shoulders for females. How thick the fabric must be to prevent buoyancy that would aid flotation, and that it must have no zippers or, ready for this, scales. No fish need apply. Speedo's solution for 2012 is a compression suit with zones of a newly patented lycra, compacting buttocks, chest, and legs for women, just the bottom half for men. It's part of a first ever completely coordinated racing ensemble. Cap, molded more like a human head than a moon, goggles, double sealed, cat's eye sleek, and suit, called the Fast Skin 3, engineered according to Aqualab's Dr. Tom Waller so that water flows unobstructed over the racer's body. The cap hands the flow off to the goggles so that there's no point where water can escape, he says, all the way down the body. Water follows from the tips of the fingers to the tips of the toes. The result? A 5.2% reduction in active drag, claims Dr. Waller. At the rollout for the new suits, Speedo USA President Jim Gerson eyes the Olympians modeling the outfits and says, with approval, how scary they all look. Freestyle champion Ryan Lochte adds this threat, to the competition in London. When I put it on, I feel like a superhero, an action figure, ready to take on the world. We've got some pictures. Tip-to-toe flow around Michael Phelps in the 2012 Speedo, as well as Natalie Coughlin in Fast Skin 3. It's got the cap and the goggles and the suit itself. All right. Page 138. That racers prefer the modified long john look in an industry previously sprinting toward minimalism is ironic indeed. The narrative of modern swimwear is the story of less, from bloomers to bikinis for women, from baggy trousers to banana hammocks, ask a kid, for men. But the battle to liberate human flesh from the confines of Victorian prudery was frustrating. Female bathers had to wear fabrics and styles more suitable for church, gray flannel trousers and sleeves to the wrist, full skirts topped by sailor blouses and puffy sleeves made of black serge or mohair. The prim fashion for concealment, wrote one observer of the much clothing craze in 1905, was not healthy. Especially in the United States, no monstrous disfigurement that can by any means be flaunted on land seems too grotesque for women in the water. Hats, shoes, even stockings are worn at those mixed picnics for what some call bathing. We shall next be told to put on clothes before getting into our baths at home, for fear of seeing our own bodies. What Europeans, especially the French and British, did with their bodies at the seashore gives new meaning to the idea of taking a dip. In fact, they were dipped, a technical term, by dippers, from a bathing machine, an enclosed cubicle on wheels that carried you directly from the beach to the waves. Inside the horse-drawn chamber, a proper lady could replace her city garb with equally cumbersome bathing attire in complete, if Spartan, privacy. A canvas awning extended from the roof and snaked down to the water, so she could slide into the sea unobserved. This sanctuary from disgrace was frequently accompanied by sturdy attendants, the dippers, who dunked the aquatically challenged into the brine for minutes of soothing surf. Jane Austen famously enjoyed one, so did the royal family. Men used them too, but they got to swim naked. Bathing machines were so much more popular overseas than in the United States that when Russian diva Ida Rubinstein was invited to perform at New York's Palace Theater in 1915, she demanded, "My own little house on wheels, that I may be drawn into the water, where one may bathe discreetly but becomingly." Madame Rubinstein was particularly concerned lest American prudery forbids me the one-piece bathing suit she'd been freely wearing on the French coast. We've got some pictures. Bathing machines at a Belgian beach circa 1890 to 1900. You can see it's like a little carriage wheels. And then this is like full coverage bathing attire. If I hide, will it focus? Maybe not. Sorry about that. Sorry about the noise. Sahira is having a little snack. And so I think we'll end here. Was hoping to get a little further along, but what can you do? Yeah, thanks for joining me for another section of Swim, Why We Love the Water. Don't love all the fat-phobic comments, but have to remind myself that this was published in 2012, so we've come a long way with how we speak about our bodies. We're not going to judge them so harshly, and I hope that you will not judge yourselves harshly either, and that you'll join me next time. See ya. Bye.